everyone! Welcome back to another exciting episode of the RationalInvestor.com's Broiler Chicken Show. I wanted to see if Chris got a smile. I got a smile out of Chris on that one, and I did. Look at that, just a little bit of smile, just a chuckle. Anyway, welcome back to the show. Hopefully, you're all awake, and all of you who love my funny intros to these videos, you got a nice chuckle out of that. And I don't know whether that's is that one of those YouTuber things, or is that one of those YouTuber things? I have no idea. If anything, you know what? Looking at the Bitcoin price, I think it's one of the. That's got to be the screenshot. So, Chris, maybe make a note of that. If you want a screenshot of what the hell the Bitcoin price is doing right now, you got one there. Of course, that doesn't drive the views, the likes, the subscribers, and all that craziness, does it? Actually, Chris was telling me there was a good 30-40 people over there waiting patiently for me to get this thing up and running here this morning. My apologies. I don't know what it was. I think I got wrapped up in, actually, yeah, Chris knows what I was looking at on the YouTube shorts, but, we won't go there. I love Chris's background. Chris has got like a Hawaiian background going. And it's even got full motion in the whole thing. I could watch the waves and stuff all come in. You got to sit and look at, I got to say, this TRI dashboard, it's a pretty thing we've got up and running here. And it's been actually extremely accurate. Interestingly enough, our crypto dashboard that we specifically built for crypto traders actually has me. And I've been actually trading, taking every single signal here that the algo has told us here, regardless of interpretation. I do like the idea that when the teal is sloping and you get the cross in that same direction, that's a really powerful signal. If you get the teal pointing in the opposite direction of the actual cross, then it's like a weak signal. But nonetheless, for the purposes of tracking, and actually I wanted to build this out for current students, so you get an idea of, what does a typical sort of trader's life look like, if anything. Actually, here we can even do a new Sunday note for today's Broiler Chicken Show. What day is it? I think it's like the 2nd of April. Yeah, it is. There you are. So actually, interestingly enough, we kind of slid right through April 1st. FYI, April 1st is my wife's and I anniversary. We met on April 1st, 1992. I was a bit quiet yesterday. It's a bit of a tough psychological slog for me around that particular date, but nonetheless, actually, I guess here we're the 2nd today now, right? So we should update that, but to give you an idea, I would, in fact, I suggest to all students that they get in the habit of logging and diarizing everything that you do, and you see how many different trading plans I'm running here. And one particular trading plan, the BTC higher time frame. Nope, that's algo. El Tangonators. Where's our algo? You're around here somewhere. Maybe you are. Maybe you aren't. There it is, BTC algo trading plan. So these are higher time frame setups, but yeah, here's the algo. So you can see buying, selling, buying, selling, buying, selling. We had a cross back there on March 20th. So as a result, I'm just sitting in cash, just waiting. There was the March 20th signal. And, I got to tell you, probably just sitting on the sidelines, just waiting for the resolution of what the heck this thing's going to do, either up or down. Here's not such a terrible idea. If we look at like the 4-hour chart, I think I have it noted there. There's where the algo told us to just hop off on the sidelines. And I got to say, it's been just basically a big hurry up and do nothing here for the past, what is that, 2 or 3 weeks now? Do have some uppy price, momentum. It's interesting how the profile itself seems to be shifting to the upside. I suppose if we go through the tweets that I do Sunday morning, we could probably go through those sort of, time frame by time frame, give you an idea sort of verbally of what it is that I'm seeing. hopefully you can put that into context. As well, too, Chris and I kind of kicked around the idea of putting together just a one-pager sort of summary of what we talk about in this Broiler Chicken Show. If there's anything in particular that jumped out, specific news articles, of course, the Bitcoin price action along with the tweets and stuff. And I'm not quite sure how we're going to handle it now. But I think what would be good is if there was like sort of an email sign up page for that weekly newsletter. And if you are interested, fire in your email address and name or something on that. I'm not quite sure how we're going to handle that. I suppose Chris and I can maybe talk about how we set that up going forward. But last week, actually, we put together sort of a proposal of how this thing should look. And I gotta say, it's looking like a cool little one-pager. So, as I walk through this sort of narrative, the purpose of these shows, I think I've told you repeatedly, is I like to spend about a half hour or so just sort of doing market commentary. What's happening in the Bitcoin space, what's happening geopolitically, what's happening, broader markets. If anything, I think we might have had something here that might derail the Bitcoin price and the tech stock rally that you've seen of late, but it actually really doesn't have anything to do with Bitcoin. It has more to do with the oil market and the dynamics of how oil and things like tech stocks sort of correlate. So that would be a piece in that one pager. So in the comments, if you could, and maybe Chris, might be an idea. Since last week was the first time we did it, I did see there were a few comments. You got to put in the actual Broiler Chickens show comment field. Yes, Brian, please add me to the newsletter list. Here is my email address. I think we can do that. I know, a lot of people are going to be like, I don't want to get my email out because then it's going to get into scams and all that stuff.
Maybe we can do a Google form sheet or something like that so that everybody can privately add their email if they want to get notifications of that newsletter.
Score! All right, so Chris already coming up with solutions for me. You are awesome. Hugs and kisses. Mwah, mwah, mwah. I suppose if we were in Mallorca right now, I'd go, mwah, kiss on the cheek, mwah, kiss on the cheek, right? Isn't that how all the Europeans do it? They're always kissing each other. Do men kiss each other, though? I don't think so. Well, maybe they do. Who knows? Houseplants. No, the houseplants, they're really good at kissing each other. Anyway, so while I'm out with Liam today, if you could maybe give that some thought, and when I pop in, maybe when we talk tomorrow morning before we get the daily brief up and running, you'll have something to speak to that. Hey, Chris, that sound good?
Sounds good.
Awesome. I swear I love working with Chris. He's so boss. Okay, so you can see here's the lower time frame. Probably best for us to start at the higher time frame. I'm trying to put all of this into context. What I often see in trading, and it's pretty typical, I mean, I've been at this game a very, very long time, is sometimes you just get into periods where the market just needs to digest and needs to do a little bit of what we call backfilling and sort of balance out, things like overbought and oversold indicators, maybe get things out of the overbought camp. And I get the impression that that's basically what we're doing right now. Keep in mind, the price has literally rallied here from about 15 and change all the way up to almost 30. I wouldn't be surprised if, based off of this bottom here, that double of whatever this bottom is the actual target. Because a lot of higher time frame players, the people that actually put these bottoms into the markets, institutional players, all that, it's not an accident that I tell you guys sell half on a double, right? I mean, when I was a broker, that was basically religion. And all the good brokers, it was basically their recommendation to clients, sell half on a double, get yourself at a risk-free trade, and then whatever happens from there, you can't get hurt. I mean, it's just sage words of wisdom. And yet the irony of it all is that, I don't know, it almost feels like when I say this in this space, for some reason, it's probably the youth of the space, but these people actually think that this is debatable. And it's, I don't want to name names because then you just end up getting into sort of, personality conflicts and stuff like that. I mean, The stuff that I teach you in this education program is time tested. And ironically enough, most of the principles that I actually teach you people are nothing that I've really created. There are indicators that I've built that help me sort of see the market from my own unique perspective. The Williams percentage R modified indicator that I call Willie. The particular moving averages I like to use. They're definitely my very unique bent on the market. But to all intents and purposes, I mean, really, what was really cool was on Friday's show, we had our level 1 instructor come on, and he was telling us about how he has several prop firm accounts up and running, and he uses this one prop firm to do this particular type of trading. He uses another prop firm to do this type of trading. And I just quizzed him. I said, what do you think's pretty much your most profitable trade setup? And he said, the 3-step setup that we teach the level 1ers is by and far time tested. It's his most profitable setup and most consistent. So how ironic. What we actually teach you in the level 1 program is and I found it myself. I mean, so it's the very first lesson I ever learned in technical analysis, trading double bottoms, double tops, and 50% rules as targets. You might call it a return to the mean setup. But in essence, that would basically be buying this W down here and looking to take profits at things like 50% rules of 52-week ranges. This happens to have the 52-week range reload zone, but we can always add in the 50% rule. Boom, there it is. Maybe we'll make it yellow so you can see it. And what a surprise, that's a 1.618. I mean, you can see this inverted head and shoulders. Its price objective is 200%. There's a fog and bomb chaos theory 2.618, and actually what we like to call that confluence. And lo and behold, you see the double bottom price there. Actually, that's a bit high. Actually, that's a bit surprising. Anyway, 18,373. Can we get up into 36, 37,000? That might be a bit of a stretch. But I certainly definitely like this 50% rule here, 31, 32,000 as a price objective. And actually, when we go down to lower time frame charts, you'll see that number. So make a note of that 31, 32,000, because we will revisit that. And then, of course, in classic technical analysis, this is actually what's called a Benkoff check. If you're actually going to look up in the dictionary, what's it called? It's called a Benkoff check. No, it isn't. It's called a Wyckoff check because of a gentleman by the name of Richard Wyckoff. But I'll tell you, our Benkoff, he's a pretty damn smart cookie. I could see 100 years from now his notes about his use of his ratios, 72%. Etc. We'll watch our weekly shows that we did with crypto to get his very unique perspective on using fibs. I wouldn't be surprised if people talk about him down the road. But anyway, point of the matter here is a retest of this low here, this market structure failure low, and even all the way up into these clothesline levels is actually extremely normal. It's very, very cliche. So, when looking at this price chart, I see a lot of reasons for us to continue to think about looking for price to work its way up top here. We have the moving averages, and I think I've shown you repeatedly over the years. I've been doing these silly videos with you guys for 8 years now. Can you believe that? We should have a hell of a lot more YouTube subscribers. I'm not quite sure why we don't. Maybe help us if you could. Boost those subscriptions. I think we're up to about 7,800 or so, 7,600 or so. Let's see if we can try and cross that 8,000 mark here. That would be a nice treat. I suppose, I'd love to see 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100,000. I mean, this is free information, and I think it helps you make better decisions in the marketplace. So pass the word around, hit the like button, subscribe, ring Colleen's bell, all that. I see there's 40 some odd people over there right now. I don't know whether that's an accurate number or not, but I see there's 14 likes. So by all means, if you enjoy the comic stylings of this Beamish guy, well, sprinkled in with a little bit of TA, please hit the like button. And that's what are we supposed to do? Say, hit the like button down here and post a comment and let me know how big your thing. Oh, no, that's not this conversation. That's another conversation. I'm just kidding. All right. Anyway, so back to our story. Hit the like button, subscribe, ring Khalid's bell. Hey, look, I got four people that said, "What the hell?" Hey, look at that! I got another person. Oh, you're so awesome. All right. So back to our story. Weekly basis, moving average relationship. Of course, I've talked to you guys at length. This is a really time-tested relationship that I found that works really, really well, just to identify higher time frame trends. And also, too, I mean, the great part about this this website that we built, I used to do this as a service when I was a commodities broker a million years ago, called the Weekly Commodity Trend Survey. As you can see, for the purposes of this website, we've done everything through the ETF market and stock market and crypto, listed issues. I haven't really done it, but with the commodities per se. We have the commodity ETFs, but nonetheless, point here is that this survey measures two things. Number one, what's the relative position of price given the past 52-week range? Are we at the top end of the range, which maybe you ought to think about cooling your jets? Are we at the bottom end of the range, where maybe you ought to think about loading up? And then what is that moving average relationship to give us a momentum signal? Is the fast moving average above the slow moving average, i.e. bullish? Is the fast moving average below the slow moving average, i.e. bearish? You put the two together and it makes a powerful, powerful punch. And it's so simple and it's so easy. And ironically enough, this job of trading and this job of investing is, I used to have an old boss who used to always say, the worst thing that I would see with new traders is paralysis from over-analysis, where they just use every single indicator in the book and every single charting tool. And they got 52 different signals. And at the end of it, it's okay, are you going to buy or sell? And you go, I don't know. That thing says up, that says down, but I don't know. Ironically enough, if you can just keep it as simple as possible, and all this is just where is price relative to the 52-week range, and what is the current momentum of the market. Then you want to sprinkle in things like, hey, let's throw in some market structure. Crazy things like W's in price, heads and shoulders, it's, what I teach in our education programs, and kind of like what I said there about Graham, is the 3-step process works really, really well. Step number 1. Let's see. Today we're going to make there's 30, 40 people in the YouTube page. Hey, look at that. I just put on the actual chats. Hey, look at all these people. Mama. Hey, Mama. Mama, we got the mamas and the papas. Forest Real Estate Group, brokered by EXP. Wow, there's a name. Joe Sloan. Anyway. Hello, Nick. Hello, Evil Ferris. the Bitcoin Hoover from Vancouver. Evil Ferris, that's good. DMAC's a regular. Rant, let's go. Quit with your stupid views, Brian. Just look at the charts, damn it. OTC Big B, Wenmin, Filson. Hey, hello, Filson. GOG, we have to put shock and horror in the heading to draw them in. It's tried and tested. Yeah. Well, and that's also half my problem, GOG. Is kind of like what I was just saying there about Mr. Hoagland is, the people that are all emotional about this game and that, they want to call the moon call and all that kind of stuff, man, they don't have staying power in this game. The people that are kind of like, wow, this is a business and, this is telling me this, and based on my past work, if more times when I see this happens, that should happen. And as a result, I should be positioned like this. And if I don't be positioned like this, then I'm breaking my plan. And when I break my plan, I get all upset at myself because that's poor money management. Those are the people that actually should listen to, but they're kind of boring and they're not really, we're all going to the moon, or it's the end of the world, you're going to get wiped out. We actually want to remove that emotional crap. And unfortunately, that doesn't really work well in this emotionally triggered social media focused world. If anything, for these social media people, the more the humans act like emotional wrecks, the more we get triggered, the more they sell likes and clicks and links. And of course, then that means the more advertising revenue that they get, because Tide laundry detergent got shown to 5,000 million more people. And of course, Tide has to pay you bigger royalties for the commercials. So, it's almost like this. And actually, I was even talking in the lounge this morning. It's almost like we as humans are set up to do this thing exactly wrong. Exactly wrong. And we're set up, and you actually have to deprogram yourself. So anyway, wanted to say hello to all those people over there on YouTube. So kind of cool to see you all. Hopefully I can give you some value here for my rants today. So point of the matter here is, as I was saying there just a moment ago, if we actually look at the weekly commodity trend survey, and this table right here just simply breaks down. In the bond market, we follow 16 different bond proxies, not a single buy signal. Oh, great. In the commodities markets, we follow 15 different commodities markets, not a single buy signal. Oh, man. In the country funds, we follow 20 different country funds, etc., 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 etc. The big currency markets, the sector ETFs, stock indexes, no buy signals. The only place that we're actually seeing assets at the very bottom end of the range, but with momentum starting to turn back up, is crypto, of all things. Now, we have to remember that crypto is very, very volatile. So as a result, it is going to spit up quote-unquote buy signals, because remember, what I'm really trying to do here is I'm trying to buy cheap assets. An asset that's just flatlining and doesn't have a lot of volatility in it, well, you're going to get a bounce to the 50% rule, and it probably produces I don't know, 1-to-1 risk reward. I want to see that if the market does go back to that mean, that, hey, it's a pretty big move. And basically, that's what this is telling you. If we scroll down to the crypto list, we just look at them. And this is the great part about this site, is it breaks it down really nicely for you. I don't even know what this ape is, but here we are. Price $4.12. 52-week lows, 262. The 52-week high is 27.75. So that means a 50% roll, or that return to the mean. Well, gee whiz, that's like a triple. That's almost a quadruple. You want to make money from trading. Do you think you could buy this and sell half on a double? Well, that would mean that the price goes back to $8. It might double again from there. And if you don't believe that this can happen, and this is what kills you about this silly business, is, of course, when this is the only business when stuff goes on sale, nobody wants to buy. Oh, it's a piece of crap. It'll never go up again. It's the end. That's it. How many times do you hear, if you want a tried and true method to make money trading, just simply buy Bitcoin as soon as you start hearing people say Bitcoin's going to zero. Because as soon as somebody says that, that's basically the hallmark that Bitcoin's about to go the other direction. So here's a really good example. I have no idea what the hell these damn things do, who they are. It's a terrible name, but hey, I'm here to make money from trading, and hopefully you can all see. We got lots of W's all down in here. This was actually suggested by a community member, and I'm the type of guy that I'm like, hey, I've been playing this game so damn long. When I start to see this kind of price action here, and of course, through the fall, weren't people saying Bitcoin was going to go to zero? That was it. It's all over. That's 10x, folks. You could have thrown $5,000 into this thing, and it'd be 50 G's now. Oh yeah, crypto's going to zero. Sure, yeah, whatever. And the worst part about it is the public gets sucked into this mess down here. But what they don't understand is that, I mean, I'm not gonna guarantee that anything's gonna happen. But just like I showed you, good old 50% rules, right? There is the 50% rule. I'm not making this stuff up. I mean, ironically enough, this silly thing could still double from these levels. And it would just be nothing more than a technical bounce. Nothing more. So, when you see a sheet that looks like this, where the price is here and the 50% level is here, well, you probably ought to pay attention. I remember last year, we were looking at Litecoin, and Litecoin, I mean, I remember, I just, oh God, man, I get all excited, drive me crazy. But I remember specifically last fall barking about Litecoin. Of course, we've had a bunch of people on the site, of course, who've, been on the weekly show, but hopefully you can all see this. I mean, what letter of the alphabet is this? Down, up, down, breakout. That's a W. And it's just slowly climbing the wall of worry. The interesting thing about this guy is he has a big halvening event coming up. I think it's somewhere over here. And I think Ben says that this thing likes to top out about a month or so ahead of its halvening event. And I mean, you're just going to put on good old, even right now, the 50% rule. I might use that high, but I guess that's getting a bit old. Hell, let's just go off of there. That's $108. And the double bottom there is $60. My hunch is this thing is probably going to go up into that 120 area, which is a double off of the double bottom that was probably put in by institutional players themselves. Just another good example. The issue here, though, is clearly you can see Litecoin has been working its way higher here. So we're not down here anymore. We're up here. So as a result, when you look at Litecoin, it gets a 3 now. So it's not even that attractive. Why? Price is 93, and the 50% level now is actually below. So I can't go in and buy that now. So this it's such a great guide. It's so simple, it's so pure, and it really keeps you out of a lot of trouble. But the point of the matter here is you really want to try as an investor, if you're playing that return to the mean, which is that 50% rule trade. It's the very first setup I ever learned when I came into trading back in the late 80s, early 90s. It's just tried and true, and that's basically what this service is all about. So our crypto page, we happen to have this embedded on here. And I mean, look at all the darn sixes. I mean, they're everywhere. And my hunch is there's probably still a bit more up to go in this space before we're done. The only problem is, and like you look at something like Litecoin, with a 3 now, that's sort of just like middle of the road. So it's not really that attractive. Bitcoin's still a 5 because, of course, it is still below its 50% rule. But you can see the appeal of this at 28,000 if the target is 31.8. Remember, I showed you that 50% rule when I started my rant there a few minutes ago. We will continue to come back to this 32,000. I think there's a lot of anecdotal evidence for that number. Especially when we drill down to things like lower time frame trades. But we're getting kind of long in the tooth here now. I mean, hell, we're already 7 weeks into this bull run here. That's a couple months. So, back to our charts. Once upon a time in a land far, far away, you can see the turn back up. I do like the idea that this is an inverted head and shoulders pattern. I think that's legit. We had a very, very good, man, you've probably heard me say repeatedly over the past few months, pullbacks are buying opportunities. Well, if anything, that's exactly what that was. Pullback right into moving average support. And it was interesting because we were working shorts and the algorithm was even firing short signals here. And then we got that funny one-day reversal, of course, when the banking crisis hit there with Silicon Valley Bank, so SVB. And then all of a sudden, everything just jackknifed straight up as it was perceived that the money printers were turned back on. You could also make an argument 52-week range, 52-week range. 38.2s have now officially been hit, so it doesn't surprise me that we're kind of stalled out here a bit. Also, too, if we do a low to high trend line, this is the pivot low, pivot high, you can see that kind of ran into traffic there as well. And we need a little bit to consolidate. Keep in mind that if we consolidate and then resolve higher, this trend line is moving up. So just to get back to that trend line, we're probably going to have to break out through those highs. It almost looks to me, based on this low to this high trend line, and now this low to this high trend line, they're actually giving us a date of when they think that this market actually is going to hit here. I wouldn't be surprised if we rally up into this area here. Maybe even, the 420 is usually a pretty positive time in the space. I would be surprised if we actually got into latter part of May with us not having at least done some sort of correction. Very, very rarely do I ever see Bitcoin rally into my birthday, which is May 11th. So everybody's got a forewarning when to buy Brian his birthday presents. Maybe just get me a card or send me like a happy birthday wish on social media or something. But the point of the matter here is I would be really surprised if we are still rallying following this May before some sort of pullback in earnest. But the interesting thing here is we could at any point have a flash dump down into these lows. Well, I always say wicks and tails like to be eaten, candle body lows for trade location. So if I did want to be a buyer right now, believe it or not, this little hammer body here, what does that say? 22,183. That would be a very compelling level for me to be starting to say, all right, well, if you missed the last go around, maybe we ought to start thinking about stepping in on the buy side and taking a shot against these lows. Very tough for me to justify buying up here, but we'll get to that when we look at things like the daily charts. So weekly upside objectives still look perfectly valid. Trend, as you can see, officially turned back up here. And that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I guess 8, 9 weeks ago. And I think that corresponds. Keep in mind that this weekly commodity trend survey is updated like tonight. So it won't show this most recent week's signal until this evening. But nonetheless, there it is sitting at 7. So that'll go up to 8 when it's updated this evening.
Brian,
Yep.
I don't mean to. Can you just hide that source for the Video Ninja in your OBS?
Hide that source for the Video Ninja. All right, let's see what the heck you're talking about. Over here, that's that one? Does that make any difference?
Yeah, you should move the circle that's on your face.
Oh, there's a circle on my face? Oh, wonderful. Actually, I don't have acne. That was actually not a pimple. All right. Okay, so back to our story. Oh, that's kind of funny. There's social media for the lost. Brian's going to look like an idiot for how long have I been babbling away here? Jesus, about a half an hour, 40 minutes or so. Oh, well, what can you do? All right, so weekly analysis, and as I sort of pointed out, and the tweet that I put out was, and I often see this with new students, is, they get all gung-ho, and they're like, all right, I want to do something, I want to do something, I want to do something, and sometimes you come into markets, and really what you should do is absolutely nothing. Except hit the like button, subscribe, ring my bell. Actually, can you give me the first few bars of that song, Chris? I don't know whether you can or not. Do you know what song I'm thinking?
No.
Ring my bell, ring my bell. So if anything, and I've always wanted this, is we got to have like a soundboard where I just hit the buttons and certain things come up. So I'd want you guys to, if you hear, and who sang that? I want to say the Supremes. Anyway, there's a trivia question for you for the chat. Who sang Ring My Bell? Anyway, hit the like button, subscribe, ring my bell if you're getting any value out of this, including if you like blue dots. Okay, so new traders, I often find that they run into a market state that really isn't conducive to take a trade, and they end up grinding themselves. They end up sometimes even blowing themselves up just because they're forcing. And, you know, I don't really, on these free videos, I don't really like going into the lower time frame charts because, you know, by the time I finish this video, the whole damn image might change. But just give you an idea, what does this look like on a lower time frame basis? It's a train wreck. I mean, this has got stop. There's your 30-minute day trader chart. I mean, what a mess. Up, down, oh, big stop run. Oh, big stop runs. Up, down. Oh, let's go. We're going to the moon. No, we're not. Oh, now we're breaking down. Oh, geez, you know. I mean, the lower time frame chart is an absolute disaster right now. But the weekly chart is basically, this is a hurry up and do nothing market. Is that who it was? Anita Ward. Oh, thank you, guys. Thank you, Cheryl. Ring Cheryl's bell. I always like Cheryl. Sure hope your son still gets some value out of all these rants. So my message is, and I like doing this before we do these shows, and hopefully Chris, do you need the link to this, or can you just grab this on your own for our little one pager? You already did it? All right, you're awesome. What this really is 2 weeks of indecision. That's what doji means. And if you don't know that, maybe take the opportunity and write that down. Right? Doji simply means indecision. The market itself doesn't really know what it wants to do. And sometimes the indecision, like over here where my mouse is, can actually result in a market pivot. And this is actually what's called an empire pattern. Maybe write that down too. Sometimes you can have a doji as what we call a midpoint consolidation move. So that would be sort of like this little guy over here, where market came screaming down, doji, indecision. Turns out that was just basically the middle of the move. So it's not necessarily like doji is a buy or sell signal. It could be either or. But it is definitely a message to you as a good technician that the market doesn't really know what it wants to do. There's a lot of people coming in and buying and selling right at this level. And our job as good technicians is we have to wait to figure out what the heck this is going to tell us. Do we resolve higher, or is this like an empire top? And we break down, we head back down to the downside. We just don't know right now. And this will end up just absolutely driving the new person to trading and investing crazy. Well, I mean, the proof of the pudding's in the eating, Luke, so you tell me. And I don't know whether you've taken our education program, but we do have a week in our level 1 program that's 12 weeks long. 1 week we spend specifically on candlestick patterns. This is an empire, right? And the easy way for you to remember that is it looks like the Empire State's Building. And it is also a fractal. So if you understand fractal logic, you should know what a move through this low. What is that low? 41,888.88. Interesting. You should know what that implies. And if you don't know what it implies, look at the price chart. What happened? Take a screenshot of that. Write some notes on this. Well, I think I learned something new today. What does an empire look like? Why does he call it an empire? I already gave you the answer there. What does an empire also look like? And what usually happens when an empire resolves? Kaboom! And you can have an inverted empire that goes the exact opposite. That's bullish. So Okay, back to our story. So the point of the matter here is big fat doji. And this is 2 dojis in a row. So the market is very, very indecisive. I would say it's having a very hard time going down because, number one, we have seasonality. Buy when it snows, sell when it goes. Um, we've got, of course, a whole bunch of, can we actually even trust this banking cartel with our hard-earned savings anymore? I mean, this banking cartel has really screwed all of us in our society. I mean, just really has fucked us over here over the past 10, 20 years. The banking cartel got into really deep shit there in 2007, 2008. And they literally had to say nothing. And they had to give the public, they had to give government anything and anything that they asked for, or the banking cartel was going to be broken. Most people in the public don't understand that. They think that bitching about the banking cartel now is going to do anything. The time to have done something was in 2008, 2009, 2010. Barack Obama was specifically elected on the platform of change. We all remember every bloody time he got up on the podium, we're going to change. We're going to finally make this thing fair. And did he do any of that? Not one damn thing did he change. In fact, he made it so now the banking cartel is absolutely bulletproof. And if anybody says boo to the banking cartel now, they're going to get an SBF up their butt good and hard. So, it's interesting. And I always tell you guys in this video, there was a gentleman that I used to work with. I haven't talked to him now in months. But he used to always say, he was a big fan of the celestial stuff, that this particular celestial cycle was all about a consolidation of power. And I believe that that is exactly what they have done. They have consolidated their power base, and they are like literally as powerful as Darth Vader now and the evil empire. And how ironic we were talking about empire patterns. Dun, 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 dun. And the question is, which one of you is Luke Skywalker waving your bitcoins around going, oh, you're not my father? Is that you, Chris? I see Chris got a little smile on his face. I don't know.
I'm more Mace Windu than Luke Skywalker.
Oh, there's a reference. Damn, stone cold. I think I'm more, based on my expanding waistline, I think I'm more like Chewbacca. Oh, no, that was terrible. No. Anyway, the point of the matter is that the evil empire, the cartel, the Rothschilds, whatever the hell you want to call it, Klaus, World Economic Forum doofuses. I mean, they have consolidated power so nicely, there is no way. In fact, what they're doing now is they're actually going after their competition. And like Silicon Valley Bank was their competition. I believe Luna was a very viable competition. And I believe that the cartel actually hired a certain curly-haired, sweatpant wearing, I hear you, but I'm going to do my own thing anyway. SEC I don't even know how to describe it. You all know who I'm talking about. I believe actually he was an agent for them. But SVB and now Signature Bank, Silvergate, these things are places are being dismantled very on reason. Interestingly enough, because remember, and I'd just be curious, let's see if you guys in the audience know, who do you think actually created Bitcoin? I'd be curious. Chris, do you have any idea? Who do you think Brian thinks created Bitcoin?
CIA.
Okay, that's one direction. What's another way of saying CIA? How about U.S. military industrial complex?
That makes sense. Yes.
How about who's the guy who actually controls? I couldn't believe it. Who's the guy in control of the U.S. Federal Reserve right now? I mean, you all should know that. Yes, Sean, who is in control of the central bank right now? One guy. We all know him, right? I don't know what. Chapa! Right? I think that's what they call him, right? Something like that. Hey, I got a smile out of Chris on that one. That's good. He actually came from Carlyle Group. He actually was. He was one of Bush's cronies. I couldn't believe it when I learned that. So basically, Bush is in control of the Federal Reserve. And keep in mind when Cheney used to be Bush Senior's Secretary of Defense, didn't he? Yeah. And Colin Powell was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. I mean, you can just go through the list, right? I mean, and then of course Colin Powell became Secretary of State. Cheney became Vice President to George Bush Senior's son, who basically apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Condoleezza Rice was Secretary of State, I think, for the first administration. And she was a senior director at Exxon. I mean, it goes on and on and on, right? Anyway, the point here is I thought it was really interesting that a sort of kind of mid-tier, probably like bureaucratic gentleman from the U.S. military. Keep in mind, U.S. military and Carlyle Group. I mean, basically, you're basically saying the same thing. Is coming out now saying, well, you know what? Actually, Bitcoin should become part of Second Amendment protection. Like, what? So, clearly, well, I don't know if you can say clearly or not. Who knows? I mean, if you actually believe that 9/11 happened just because of the terrorists, or you believe that 9/11 happened by accident or all that, well, then, I can't help you. I mean, there are other people that believe other things. I believe that the United States of America just has gotten diluted. I mean, what was it? Rumsfeld comes out and says, oh, one day, we accidentally lost $1.2 trillion and we can't figure out where it went. Oh, well, did you look in your pocket, sir? Oh, hey, there it is. Oh, shh, don't say that. Did you get that on camera? No, you didn't. Okay. And then the records that we're going to audit to find this 1.2 trillion, they happen to be stored in the World Trade Center in New York. Now, why would you store those kind of records in that building of all buildings? I mean, just it's baffling. I mean, it's ridiculous. So as I've said repeatedly from day one coming into this space, I do believe that Bitcoin was created by the people that basically destroyed the U.S. I don't know. I guess you could say the U.S. dollar to a certain degree was the world's hegemony. I don't think it is anymore. I think it's literally just diluted into ridiculousness. It almost feels like it's a fait accompli that this fiat currency system is coming to an end. And actually, I even heard somebody the other day even saying that they fully expect that Bitcoin's people are just going to be dealing in Satoshis. And when we make this sort of full conversion to sort of digital economy, digital world, whatever the currency is that you have in your pocket, it's probably going to be some sort of amalgamation of US dollars, British pounds, German D-marks, whatever, euros, I suppose. Is there going to be some sort of Chinese participation? I don't know. Japanese yen, Australian dollars, I could see them thrown in. I could see things like energy credits, so if you are a net polluter of CO2, then you get taxed on that. So then that can now actually become like a currency unit, something along those lines. But I wouldn't be surprised if Bitcoin itself is actually in the mix as some sort of value metric in this. I think the IMF was calling it like what the hell is it? Drawing rights, strategic drawing rights, specific drawing rights, something like that, SDRs or something. Anyway, so I just found it very interesting, and this kind of caught my attention, that the U.S. military now is starting to say, hey, you know what? Bitcoin should become part of our actual constitutional rights. That's an interesting twist. Why on earth would the military be chiming in on this conversation? And how could this gentleman, because keep in mind, he's just some middle of the rank and file bureaucrat type military guy. So why on earth is he being given, and I don't even know if this is the picture of him or not, but Space Force Major. I mean, Major, that's kind of like, any of you watch Apocalypse Now? Captains and majors, they pass that stuff around. He's just a middle bureaucrat. So why is he being used as the mouthpiece here? Probably because if this doesn't fly, he's expendable, so no general's going to put his neck in the noose. But at the same time, too, the U.S. military is clearly voting here. And I thought that was a really interesting thing that came out of this. So what does this all mean? I get the impression that I'm a little worried that these lows could be washed here over the next 6-8 months. There are still a few things floating out there that are a little bit concerning. The U.S. Congress is probably going to come to head with this cartel, because keep in mind, the cartel wants nothing more to just maintain their business model. They don't give a shit about inflation. They don't care about the purchasing power of the currency in your pocket. That's irrelevant to the banksters. The only thing that matters is can they maintain their business model? And of course, Rothschilds famously said, you can go into business with consumers and even businesses, but that's not where the power is. The power is going into business with governments. And of course, they learned that through the Napoleonic Wars, that desperate governments will throw ridiculous amounts of money at the banksters to try and cover their asses. In my country right now, the leader doesn't have a problem, just perfectly matter of fact saying the Canadian government will spend $40 billion that it does not have this year, and not even ask the public whether that's even a good thing or not. There's no referendums. There's no, is this in our country's best interest? There isn't even really a vote. I mean, that's how backwards a country like Canada's democracy is. And of course, there's a lot of people in my country that are absolutely disgusted. The guy cannot show his head in Western Canada. And the last time he was here in Vancouver, he literally had people throwing rocks at him. If one of those rocks happened to hit his head, it might kill him. So, he's not liked at all. He's basically a despot. So, it's a crazy ass world we live in. And I believe that Bitcoin was created as an alternative to that insanity. It's interesting how one by one, all of these sort of on-ramps that were very popular in crypto over the past 5-10 years are all slowly being dismantled. And my hunch is, and I don't know if there's any Americans watching, I'm sure you already know now. Of course, as a Canadian, I got the polite message to get the fuck out of Trex. There, I guess about 6 months ago, so I don't have any association with those assholes anymore. But I think all you Americans just got a polite notice that you are being officially off-boarded of Trex. So anyway, it is what it is. The point being that in a weird sort of way, we're almost getting the United States is repeating history, because back in the 1930s, they kind of made like individual ownership of gold illegal for U.S. citizens. And I wonder if to a certain degree they're going to do the same thing to Bitcoin and crypto. Whereas, it's probably like you're allowed to own it, but you have to declare where you're owning it, and it has to be custodianed at a deemed acceptable location. So we'll see how this all plays out. If anything, I'm jealous of people like Chris who are overseas now. But if anything, probably the best thing to do is, if you are a crypto fan, you all know the expression, not your keys, not your coins. And I've actually myself been spending a lot of time and effort trying to dislodge myself from the centralized exchanges and centralized trading, and basically take ownership of any crypto assets that I own. And the assets that I own in crypto personally are really for Liam. You all know Liam. The only reason why I own those assets is if the whole system collapses, and I absolutely have to have some sort of safety net for Liam to make sure that he still lives and is healthy and happy and has the supports he has. Those Bitcoins and those Ethereums and stuff are there for him. And that's the only reason why I have those. In fact, like I trade primarily, if I was going to trade, I like to trade through commodity exchanges and stuff. So that's trading. So, in fact, actually, Grim was telling us on Friday there's a really cool prop for him, and I think I'm going to try out for it because I'm really excited about it. I never even thought you could do it. He says you can actually prop trade for these guys and take your payout in Bitcoins. And I was like, fuck it, hey, that's a totally awesome way to pad Liam's account. And I'll just do it through prop trading. So it's not like, I just sit and just trade by plan. If I'm profitable, then Liam gets more Bitcoins. Woohoo! So I'm pretty excited about that, to be honest with you. Anyway, so that's something I'm looking into. So back to our story. Sorry, very long-winded. As I said, there is some political uncertainty here. I wouldn't be surprised, and this is just pure opinion. Like we said, weekly basis still pointing up, but I wouldn't be surprised that if and when we do actually hit these levels, you're going to see a lot of profit taking from the people that did step in at the bottom. And then I think you could actually see a pretty violent dump on the other side of that. I don't think we're there quite yet, though. I don't know why, but that's just my hunch. I could be wrong. As I said, any kind of pullback now, I don't really have any sell signals. For me to generate a sell signal here off of this weekly chart, I would actually have to see this end here, beep, done, and then next week, and really tomorrow, next day, is to actually trade through this doji low, which would create a 3-bar fractal, but it wouldn't be a very strong signal. It would be a very weak signal. Because we're just going to be banging right into all of this moving average support. And there are a ton of people, I can guarantee you, that are sitting on the sidelines that would absolutely love to get in on this right now. There's probably a ton of buy orders down here. So I'm kind of thinking that if there is any kind of topping pattern here, it's going to be very short and it's going to be part of a bigger topping pattern. I wouldn't have any sell signals here. Then if we go to the weekly charts, we can see things like the relative strength index is painted at a higher high. So there's no reason to step in front of that. Willie technically is not stupidly overbought on the weekly basis. There's no real top yet there. MACD, actually, it could top out. But it's very dangerous, assuming, right? We all know assuming makes an ass out of you and me. So this could W, and then we're making higher highs and higher lows. That's a bull market. This could M, and if that's the case, then yep, at that point, I say, put a fork in her momentum-wise, got to cool my jets, sit on the sidelines, nothing to do. But it hasn't done either of those. It's just sitting here, kind of just going sideways. We'll just have to wait. So as the tweet sort of said is, this is where most noobs blow themselves up, just purely out of frustration. I used to have an old broker buddy of mine who used to always say this: you cannot push a chain. And if you want to grab a chain anywhere, and try pushing it anywhere. You can pull it, but you can't push it. It's impossible. So sometimes in this business, you just have to sit and wait. And unfortunately, how's Brian supposed to fill a couple hours of ranting at you guys? Well, I can always find something to bitch about. But But the point here is that there's really nothing new to do here off of the Bitcoin chart if you're an investor. You just got to sit and cool your jets. That's all. If anything, it's probably, and actually this takes us down to the medium time frame, the daily chart. And so what have I said here? So if we actually look at this daily chart, you can actually see that we've been playing with this megaphone pattern for quite some time. And usually it goes 1, 1, 2, 3, trade location. Number 3 is a trade location. And then 1, 2, 3, trade location? Maybe. Try pushing a blockchain. If we're looking at the daily chart, right? This I mentioned earlier, I built this one indicator years and years and years ago. It's a modified Williams percentage R indicator. It just simply tells me when the market is getting overbought or getting oversold. It's loosely tied in with the concept of Elliott wave, in that you usually have several waves higher, 5 steps for a typical Elliott wave move. And you usually find that Willie starts flashing overbought signals at at 3 to 5, 4 or 5, right into that area. Usually when you look down at the momentum oscillators, they're starting to spit out divergences, and Willie is overbought, or what I like to call stupid. So you could argue that at this point, we were overbought. We needed to clean ourselves up. That's what this consolidation looks like. And by the time we got down to this one, the account here, 1, 2, 3, is this a trade location? Willie's no longer stupidly overbought, and any kind of buy setups you have down here. I remember when this level came in, some of our site members were trading off of hour charts, 2-hour charts. They had some really nice buy setups come in through here. I didn't really have anything set up for me, but, so what? The point here is a pretty good signal. I knew a lot of guys on the site bought that and did very well. But here we are. We're back overbought again. And I suppose you could argue it's not really the best example, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We haven't really got wave 5 here yet, if you're an Elliott wave fan. Usually wave 3 is the biggest wave, and it looks like this wave is actually bigger than this wave. So I don't know whether I would really do an Elliott wave count off of this. But you can see Willie is clearly stupidly overbought. Sometimes Willie can stay overbought for quite a while before it has to break down and clean up. So I don't know how long this is going to sit here, but the absolute number one most important thing, if you see Willie like this, I can't be a buyer. I can't buy. Simple as that. I'm just not allowed to buy. So also too, it looks like somebody's saying here bear divs on RSI. I suppose if we pull up that daily chart, that's over here. And we go douche and douche. There is the bear div on RSI. So you can see, I think we do that. Actually, this is really ugly too. Because really your bear div goes all the way back to there. So this bear div started at the top of our megaphone. Ay, 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 ay. That's bad. Not good at all. It's so sad. We used to have a guy on the site, and actually fairly popular. Would like to try and get him back in the community, in the conversation on this site, but unfortunately, I just don't think he's really that interested in trading anymore because he's so wealthy from just owning Bitcoins. But we had one guy on the site back in that last crypto bull cycle where RSI went stupidly overbought, like this kind of idea. And huge bearish divergences. And he was like, wow, bearish divergence, they don't matter. Just buy. You'll get stinking rich. And unfortunately, that turned into an absolute train wreck. So you should all heed that message. That's a big cautionary warning sign. Of course, like I said, I built the Willie indicator. This is what I teach my students, how to identify overbought, oversold. And this market is screaming overbought here. Then I think one thing that really bugged me about this chart when I did this analysis this morning is, where the fuck are the buyers? I mean, if you're all so damn bullish of Bitcoin, why is nobody buying here? If this thing's supposed to be a million, I actually hear people with a straight face on social media say that this thing's going to $1 million. If it's going to $1 million, why isn't everybody mortgaging the farm and buying Bitcoins? In fact, interestingly enough, what I think's happening here is everybody's going to sleep. And ironically enough, we said there just a moment ago, what does everybody look like going to sleep? Well, you put 2 weekly dojis back to back with really small trading ranges, and I can guarantee you 99% of the public, they've lost interest. They're out chasing some other dream right now. They're not chasing the Bitcoin dream. So the volume here, this is very, very suspicious. Now, the good part about it for the bulls is the bears have also pretty much gone to sleep. Now, it looks like, based on my teachings, this was the highest high for the down bars, right? That was 5,000. This was 4,000. Yeah. So the bears haven't officially fallen asleep yet. But you got to be a little bit concerned that the bulls, if we get a up day where they do less than 964 coins, then that means 1, 2, 3, I guess in here, even really this high. If we do less than 916 coins, that means the bulls have officially fallen asleep. The bears could fall asleep. They're starting to flash warning signs that they are falling asleep. If anything, we have to have one more big down red candle here. And then the bears just disappear and we get a red candle on very low volume. Then we'll know that the bears have fallen asleep. So we're a long way away from that. And you can see it in the OBV indicator. OBV is still making higher highs. We are still above the moving average. So the bull has not gone away. It's just what's very suspicious to me is that if Bitcoin is such a great deal here, and if it's such a, it's next best thing since sliced bread, why aren't people buying? Why everybody's just stopped? And that's sometimes a warning sign. Doesn't necessarily have to be. We could just keep marching our way higher. But what I want to see is I want to see W's in these green bars here. And you can see, if anything, we're making M's. And we're making M's in red, which means we might see even more doji action. This thing might just go sideways for the next month. Drive everybody crazy. Overbought. Kind of losing participation. You see where guys like Colin and the poke chasers, you see where they'd be interested. I've told you repeatedly, at any given point in time, you should expect 38.2 retracements. Anytime. You should expect it. So this market is vulnerable. We are getting a whole bunch of potential smileys, right? What are you supposed to think if you ever see the market smiling at you? If you don't know the answer, maybe consider joining our program. You can see there's little smiles within big smiles. Smiles haven't confirmed yet, so we don't have to worry about them. But, as you can see these dotted lines, what I would say is the market is stuck in a trading range right now, and it's waiting for somebody to wake up and take control. Markets put in 2 weekly dojis in a row. Market's waiting for somebody to wake up and take control. All right, Brian, I'm a degenerate lower time frame trader, and I want to see if there are any setups to trade. Well, ironically enough, if we drill down to like the 4-hour time frame, that's about as low as I'm going to go with these public videos. I post the 30-minute charts, but those are really only for like the professional day traders. If you don't have like a trading plan working and you don't have clearly articulated setups, you got no business looking at a 30-minute chart or anything lower than that. You're just literally going to be handing the market money. If you want to learn how to trade on lower time frames, great. Yeah, we can help you there. But I really don't think it's in the public's best interest, especially for these free videos, for me to be barking about 5-minute setups. That's a waste of everybody's time. So we'll leave the Bitcoin analysis at this and just simply say, do we have anything that sort of suggests that there's been a change in trend off of things like the 4-hour chart? You remember and keep in mind, this is that megaphone that we had on that daily chart. So you can see the pivots. They're pretty well articulated. You can see that we bumped up against a 3 at the bottom of the megaphone, 3 at the top of the megaphone. And interestingly enough, we often talk about the Ides of March as a very psychologically significant event for us humans on this planet. And I do think that there was a very significant pivot event that happened through that Ides of March. And of course, FOMC is definitely a huge driver in this space. And you can see how the FOMC knocked price down. Price was able to recover. I don't know whether we've really broken out through the top of that FOMC top or even the bottom. What I see here is a whole bunch of washing back and forth, back and forth. Julian has been coming on the videos recently and talking about how he just thinks this is like the ultimate player versus player kind of market. In video game land, I think they call it PvP, player versus player. Yeah, I think that's how it goes. And what that means is, if you go in there and you are quote unquote trading, what you're really doing is you're going in and playing against the big boys. And of course, they have way deeper pockets than any of us. So can they go and wash the top of these markets just to see if there are any cheap stop loss orders they can flush out, and then go wash the bottom of this low just to see if there are any cheap stop loss orders they can wash out, just in what we call liquidity hunts? And I think absolutely that's exactly what's happened. What's worse, and like I said, I'm not going to get into it, but if you fancy yourself a day trader, oh my God, this has been a train wreck, back and forth, just grinding. And ironically enough, if you trade diamond patterns, really you don't get a signal until the market actually closes above the high or closes below the low, and you can see stop wash, get out of there. Stop. Well, look at this move on stem. Stop wash, boom, right back down. So that's number one reason why I don't want to talk about that 30-minute time frame with you guys here on public, is you're going to get just screwed over by the 1%. 4 hours? Okay. I still think, based on, those daily price charts, that, higher highs and higher lows, we haven't broken down here yet. I think this low here, is very significant. And if we do break down through that low, and that low there is 26,447 over on Stamp, I think the bulls got some trouble. I think this white smile will confirm. Of course, we got a little itty bitty smile over here that's potentially forming. I think the bears, you can see Willie is stupid. If we got a big red candle, obviously that's going to probably trip up a bunch of stop loss orders. Probably going to have some volume come in there. But we haven't done that yet, so you can't say that that's happened. Back to our 4-hour chart. Really, what this is this looks to me like a case of higher highs and higher lows. So, coming out of the Ides of March, I think you can make the argument. You had an entry there at about, where are we here, 25.7 or so. Move stop to scratch, so you shouldn't lose money on this trade. Hit here at about 27.4. Move stop to trailing was hit up here at 28.5. Did you get flushed out on this move? I don't know. I mean, the interesting thing about this is Stamp has some funny price action. If you look at some other exchanges, they did not have this kind of print up here. I would really say the same thing as I said about that diamond. Really, a close above here is bullish. A close below here is bearish. And whoa, look at that. Did they close the market above that closing high? That high there is closing high 28,646. And we got here 28,734. Son of a bitch. So, in fact, actually, you could even make the argument we had a closing high here. So, is this thing still working its way higher? It looks like it. You could argue this move, the second part of that Ides of March pivot. So this move here from this low up to this high here, A, B, C, D, that's this purple. I don't know whether you can see that or not. It's probably hard to see on the video. This, we'll change it to yellow here for you. This looks to me like it's still pointing higher. So this guy would have you long here at 27. Interesting, we still have not hit the move stop to scratch level on this bot. So technically, if we get a pullback here and some sort of buy signal against these lows, you could actually join that trade. Move stop to scratch there is going to be 29.2 and change, which looks to me like if we take out this high, then you move your stop to scratch, you're sort of made in the shade. Move stop to trailing up there at 30. And of course, his ultimate objective there, 31.9. And remember I had said at the start of the video, 31-ish, 31.9, call it 32-ish, but 31 to 32 and change. Interesting how these 4-hour charts are still pointing up there. And then remember we said on like the weekly chart, that was this, 50% level sitting at 32. Or no, beg your pardon, 31,894. So really all we're saying is these lower time bots are just pointing for us to head up into the parking garage, into the 50% level against this key market structure low, blah, 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 blah. So you can kind of see how the market is trying to work its way higher. As long as we keep painting higher highs and higher lows, we've got the higher lows. The question really is, can we go out and take out that high to start printing another higher high here? I wouldn't put it past the market. Let's put it that way. Now, the interesting thing is that so that's the bull case. Now, can you make a case for the bear? It would be a short-term thing because what I see, and it's going to be how does the market react tomorrow. It's interesting how OPEC here came out through the weekend and decided to change its cartel's production quotas. I don't know whether this is going to have a material impact on Bitcoin. I will say on balance that usually things like technology stocks, they actually underperform when oil outperforms. So, we're going to have to watch how oil performs here on the open. You can already see that oil was pointing higher. I want, probably tomorrow in the after party, we'll probably go into more detail and see if there are some upside objectives. Just off the top of my head, when I look at a chart like this, very first thing I want to do is just throw on the Foggenbaum. So you can see 2.618 right now, which kind of technically makes sense because that's just going to be nothing more than, I guess just a revisit of this downtrend line up in here. So could you find that oil is going to like gap $5 higher here in through the session tomorrow? Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. And then, of course, as I said there just a moment ago, usually oil prices are very sensitive to, I should say it the other way around. Tech stocks themselves are very sensitive to oil prices. So if oil prices are heading higher, we all know that the NASDAQ has been on an absolute tear of late. So the question really ultimately is this thing maybe due for a little bit of calming down? I suppose you could argue, this looks like, well, maybe there to there. Maybe tech can work its way all the way up to Mountain Man. That would actually make sense. But could we have maybe a period like off of this, just this W that happened here? 2.618, we've already hit that. Could this maybe, create some sort of pullback here and do a little bit of consolidating while that oil news is being digested? Sure. Would I consider that a sell signal? I'd probably have to go through this M to actually confirm a double top. Then I'd start drawing Foggenbaums to the downside, kind of like this. So there, again, ironically enough, just like Bitcoin, this looks like pullbacks are buying opportunities. And interestingly enough, I'm a big fan of Intel right now. I've been barking about Intel forever. And these damn options they've literally gone tenfold up. I'm actually really angry at myself that I let this trade slip through my fingers because I've even been barking about it publicly. Spread trades they just went crazy. Options went nuts. Anyway, point here is, could this maybe use? Keep in mind, this is a weekly price chart. If we go back to the daily, Is this maybe a little too far, too fast? I mean, look at that chart. Could we not maybe spend a week or two and just, pull back or buying opportunities, backfill in this gap, that kind of thing? It seems logical. In fact, there's another gap all the way down here. We could very easily pull back here. Right? It's looking very strong, but maybe a little too strong. So I do find it interesting how that oil news has come out here on a Sunday after the NASDAQ has had a huge run up. And, kind of like Bitcoin, could this maybe take some time and clean itself up? And maybe, you can see where reload zones are. I think I showed you off of the daily chart. You can see where Colin and his pump chaser buddies would be sitting. So it wouldn't shock me. Let's put it that way. It wouldn't shock me. Willie stupidly overbought. Like I said, it wouldn't shock me if, those 4-hour bullish bots finally start exhausting themselves and we broke down here. And since, that first one already had its move stop to trailing level, anybody who took the Ides of March bot, they'd probably be best served if we did M out here, just getting the hell out. Just be careful. Don't assume that this M has actually come in. Maybe if you were in this bullish bot here, maybe this M actually got you out, and then you turned around and you jumped right back in on this one here. Maybe, if that's the case, you might have to take a punch in the nose. We'll see how that goes. It hasn't broken down yet, so I wouldn't assume that this thing has broken. Now, if we do go in M out here, then I think this bullish bot thesis is off the table for now. And as I kind of said there a moment ago, off the daily chart, if we do go in M out, that's this little red M firing. There's no way I could be a buyer here anyway. So if you're like a higher time frame participant, this is your daily chart, then actually you're kind of rooting for and you want to buy, you want to get long. If anything, you're kind of rooting for this M to come in here so that we can clean up all this overboughtness and set some sort of base for the next serious leg higher. So anyway, there's your Bitcoin summary. I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was about an hour or so, because I had about 10, 20 minutes there of ranting to begin with. More like a half hour, 45 minutes. So, way too late to be a buyer. As simple as that. It's just way, way, way too late to be a buyer. Question ultimately is, do we consolidate? And that consolidation gives us maybe like 3 higher lows. And then we can start thinking about bullish bots. And this is an A, B, C, D. I know there's some people on social media that are calling this a bull flag. I think it's still a little bit early. And I don't like the look of the lack of volume here. But, show me 3 higher lows here. And then I can start thinking bullish bots, but that's miles and miles down the road. If anything, probably that's going to take the rest of this week to actually play out. As I said, it'll be interesting to see how the corn reacts to that oil cartels news. Ironically enough, between Canada and the United States, we probably now have more oil than the Middle East. But the irony of it all is, for some reason, the politicians are hell-bent on us not using the oil. I think they are puppets, of course, of special interest groups. And for some reason, Mr. Carney, $100 trillion in lending to fund this green bullshit revolution, which doesn't necessarily have to happen, but it's damn profitable for the banksters. There are special interest groups that are encouraging us to move that direction. Anyway, I'll leave the conclusions about the environment and all that for you to decide on your own. All right, there's your Bitcoin summary. Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas. Altcoins? Yeah. I actually have a plan that I'm putting into place now to participate in the coming bull market. Keep in mind, Bitcoin absolutely loves to rally. about 6 months prior to its halving event. I suppose maybe in Broiler Chicken, you all know what I'm talking about. It takes me forever to load the chart, so I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But long and short of it here, lots and lots of anecdotal evidence suggesting that Bitcoin, and really cryptocurrencies in general, if you want to participate in this upcoming bull market, it's actually now. It's 2023 when you actually have to step in and force yourself to start accumulating. It's difficult, and it's like pulling teeth. I'm not going to say it's easy at all. And really the best way for me to show you this, actually, I really like the job Josh has done here. We follow the January barometer, and the January barometer is screaming bottom for 2023. We like the Benner cycle. It's screaming bottom in 23. I don't know whether, I suppose politically in election years, we should, have a fairly firm spring, which I think we have. Through the summer, we'll probably have, typical sell in May and walk away, and then grinding higher, and then coming out of the fall, I actually think there's going to be a pretty good rally heading into the end of the year. Interestingly enough, Mr. Wyckoff, there's Wyckoff that I was talking about earlier. I like to call him Benkoff because of Ben. He would suggest that market bottom should look something along these lines, and this is exactly what I expect to happen. Are we up here? Are we right here? Somewhere in that area. Have we done these technical bounces? Have we finished back to 38.2s, back to 50% levels? I don't know. But it should look something along these lines. Then I would expect, we still have that stupid FTX idiot. His trial has got to come up here shortly. And the irony of it all is I get a feeling the guy's not going to serve a single day in jail, because this was all planned by the 1%. And they've already probably figured out a way for him to get totally off scot-free. But we'll see. Only time will tell. That's my just personal conjecture. So, you put it all together. And, here, this is what I was talking about. Actually, fantastic. I loaded this. Good timing. I think that this cycle looks identical to this cycle. The only difference was this peak, this particular cycle was quite a bit closer to this peak, whereas back in that 1216, this was quite a bit higher. But I think the only reason why it went this high was because there was an algorithm that got loose. It was called the Willy bot, and it totally skewed price into that peak. Anyway, the bottom here, I think it's going to look something along these lines. Do we have to come down and actually make lower lows here into September, October? I don't know. I honestly don't know. If you actually look at cost of production, and I did a tweet out recently, cost of production numbers like the difficulty, and then, you just look around our society. Has the cost of electricity gone up? Slightly. I mean, has the cost of everything gone up? Yeah, slightly. Thank you, banksters, assholes. Maybe we could actually at some point justify cost of production. Bitcoin's already hit its floor. Some people are saying yes. Regardless, I think we have to go through this. But once, we get about 6 months before that halving event coming up here next spring. And look out, you better get loaded up. So, having said that, there are a lot of these names. There was actually one that I just recently bought. And somebody had mentioned, there's a fucking shit ton of coins out here, Brian. Are you sure you really want to buy this? And really, this is just a commentary of 50% rules. I mean, that's almost 10x just back to this range. And I've talked to you guys lots about, all these guys sleeping on the couch. At some point, they're going to want to be released. Wicks and tails like to be eaten. And this isn't even actually that high. If you go and look at this thing versus, keep in mind, that's just the peak from 22. If we look at this, I think if you go back a bit on this thing, let's see. Yeah, I mean, look at this. Back in 20. So there's the highs from 22. I mean, So to me, it's a no-brainer. No-brainer that on any sort of bull market down the road, that we trade back into those levels. Now, does this have to take because I like saucer bottoms. So does this have to take the whole year and do something like that? Sure. That wouldn't surprise me at all. Am I calling bottoms on these crypto names, buying them down here? No. But at the same time, too, I like to buy when others are crying. And I don't know. Let's go over there on YouTube. How does the rest of that expression go? If I'm buying when everybody else is crying, what am I doing when everybody else is yelling? Inversely correlated. Do nervous? Inversely correlated. So, I mean, I like what I see here. This excellent. Hey, good answer there, Kevin. Basically, I want to step in here and I want to force myself to accumulate this stuff down here. I'm not throwing all my eggs in one basket. In fact, that would be breaking my rules of investing. You should all, in fact, here's a fun assignment. What are Brian's 2 rules of investing? And I heard some guy over the weekend, I sat and listened to him about how he chastised himself for not at least taking some money out of that stupid Luna thing when he was a millionaire. Like, why not take a couple hundred G's out of the market? At least pay for, a good couple years of living just in case the damn thing rolls over. Nope. Rode the whole damn thing up. I'm a millionaire. Then rode the whole thing back down. Now I'm broke ass shit. Ugh, drives you crazy. Now, what I suggest people do is, maybe you don't follow my plan, but my plan is, actually I didn't have it written up here, but we've got, of course, a whole spreadsheet and the whole damn thing. My plan is just to get in there and accumulate. We've got a whole group at TRI that wants to do this. There you can see their fun pictures. Raph, where the hell are you? Eddie, where the hell are you? Anyway, hey, TBG, good to see you rocking it. Good. And you can see I'm up to 21 now. And I'm just accumulating. Not spending a lot of money. Just coming in. My rule is don't risk more than 5% of your stake on any one single investment. In this one, this purchase represented about 1.25% of my stake. Not a lot of money. And I will add to it down the road. Rule is cannot break that 5%. And of course, once the position doubles, and you can see I've already got 1, 2, hell, I've got one that's already spat out 2 doubles already. So 3, 4. So, even though I'm in 21 names, technically I've already got 4 of my names. So you can take these guys right off the list. I've already got that capital back in my pocket. And, right now, full disclosure, I've got maybe about 50% of the capital I'm working with allocated. So even though I've got 21 names on the books, I'm only about 50% invested. And I will just slowly go and accumulate. And really, the only reason why I'm accumulating these names, some of them, special case scenario, I was long just a ton of dog money. We ended up actually liquidating a lot of it up top here, way up here, up in the, right up in this area, 55, 60 cents. So in hindsight, that was a pretty good idea. I think we sold a bunch more up in this area here just to clean out the books because we closed up that particular account. But I'm like, oh, what the hell? Let's step back in and look at what this jerk's gone and done. So, actually, I thought I had this written up here. Anyway, I stepped in. You know how much Brian loves his BFFs, right? So when I see BFFs traded to, I don't really have a choice. Brian's favorite fib is because that's Brian's favorite fib. Just get used to it. 78.6. This is what I call the reload zone. So I had no choice. I had to buy some there. It's interesting to see. I thought you said crypto was going down. So, I mean, maybe we do the whole damn thing all over again. Look at that. You can even see I've got everything all written up here. So I might add some more on the next nice W that comes in. Same sort of logic, though, that I'm just coming in through 2023 and just accumulating. I'm on time to buy all this shit back. That's just how I roll. So that's what I'm doing in altcoins. And the irony of it all is you don't know if I sat here 3 months ago and told you that a name with the name of he knew was going to pay me 10x on me investing, you would all thought I was crazy. But there it is. I bought there, and I'm selling the whole damn way up, and I still have a ton of coins on the books. Go figure. I wouldn't be surprised if this damn thing makes new highs. Wicks and tails like to be eaten, but can you come in and buy that now? Absolutely not. So go figure. All right. I think that's about it for the rants. I wanted to talk a little bit about not only Bitcoin, but also altcoins there. Somebody just asked me, I'll just take a quick boo at it, and then we'll get on to the Q&A. I didn't see a lot of Q&A today, so that's one of the reasons why I sort of went on a little bit at length there. Hopefully, Chris, what do you think? Can you break apart the Bitcoin and then maybe put a little just comment? Here's where Brian talks a little bit about altcoins.
Absolutely.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it. I thought I saw somebody ask me about something because I actually did buy some Cripple. And I think somebody asked me to look at Cripple. And if anything, Cripple's a really good example. Yeah, could you comment on Cripple, Southern Lights? So Cripple's a really good example where this was one just even a few weeks ago that I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to step in there and buy some. Because of this W. In fact, yeah, there it is there. So I had, when I see this, I got to buy that. I don't have any choice. You can see I have another bid to buy down here at the 78.6s. Not getting fills. I mean, there's another W. If anything, looking at this chart, it's almost very difficult for me to believe that I am going to be able to get a fill down here. I was reading somewhere that I think the reason why it was getting bid up was because I think the SEC and Cripple were getting close to some sort of resolution or something like that. Some I can't remember exactly the headline. Chris, do you know it off the top of your head?
I do not. I will look for it. So
all right. Holy shit! Look at this one. Woo! There's another one. I didn't know this thing was going to happen, but, at 78.6 W's, that's what Brian does. Look at that damn thing go. Right on. Now, how the hell is Bitcoin going to break down when that's happening? That's good. It's impossible. There's no way Bitcoin's going to break down if this shit's still going up like this. So, anyway, I don't know what the hell's driving this thing, but there it goes. You can see it. I mean, this is what I teach you guys, right? It's just, you got to get in there and buy. Do you see now? The buy when it snows. Usually it's, and that's, of course, if you're in North America. If you're in South America, then I guess it's the exact opposite. Actually, Northern Hemisphere, sorry. But in the Southern Hemisphere, it'd be the exact opposite. But for Northern Hemisphere, buy when it snows, October, well, really November, December. That's the absolute perfect time. And then, could you have banged out a double here? I actually ended up, I think I bought it like on this dip here. So maybe I was even caught snapping a little, but I think my double is up in this 80 area. So anyway, I don't know what the hell's driving this thing, but in comes another W. So there it goes. So am I going to step in front of that now? Can I buy that there? No. Should I sell that there? No. It looks like it's just getting going. In fact, based on that, and I know you asked me to look at Cripple, but this caught my attention. That would be my near-term price objective. Wicks and tails like to be eating, a guy sitting on the couch or sleeping on the couch, all that, blah, blah, blah. But I wouldn't be surprised if we take a shot up there now. But anyway, back to Cripple. Nice. Interesting. Look how it hit that 2.618. Is there a reason to learn Feigenbaums? You tell me. Is that some powerful ass shit or what? You know, I sure hope I go down in history as the person who finally talked to the public about chaos theory. Because, you know, there's a guy who started a brokerage firm called Interactive Brokers. And back in the 1990s, somebody interviewed him and asked him, how did you make so much money trading? Oh, I trade chaos theory. Can you tell us a little bit about it? Dead silence. Would not speak a fucking word about it. And now I'm the only person on social media, and I hope somebody gives me some fucking cred over this, that I finally brought this concept out into the public eyes, and all of you should be able to do really, really well with this concept. Anyway, point here is, I think it explains why Cripple stopped where it did there. And really what I would expect now is a consolidation. We probably should come back and test this high. If we don't, and we just start powering higher before we actually come back to this level, then next up is 4669. So you can see that I did buy here at 40. If that happens, oh, I'll be finally getting up into my double level and I can think about letting some go. But how ironic, eh? Jesus. And interestingly enough, this now confirms this huge Feigenbaum. Oh, you can see I've already drawn it. So let's see where the hell that's going to take us. Oh, boom! Look at that, 97 cents. Woo-hoo! I'll get my double then. So, there's your comment on Feigenbaum. Make sure, give me a comment. Somebody post in the comment. You know, if you like what I'm doing here, please hit the like button. We got to get the fucking viewers of this. That's it. Just swear at YouTube. That'll get the views up. That'll do the trick. But maybe I'm not yet. The public isn't ready for this. I don't know. But I mean, Jesus, this is the shit. This is the. Okay. Let's head on over to the Q&A document. Hey, we got two questions. Sorry. So first question, number one, Brian. Why do you prefer using the visible range volume profile indicator, where the profile changes depending on what's on the screen, versus fixed range, where it shows levels, POC, notches, etc. in fixed locations? I don't really have a preference either way. It's probably more lazy than anything else, to be honest with you. I think I had my profile on this chart. I think I produced this chart recently. And like on the tweet, I said, it was interesting like a week or so ago when we did this video, right? Like that's, where was a week ago? What day was last Sunday, Chris? Was it 20?
The 26th.
26. All right. So if we go back to the 26th, say there, you notice that value is actually down here, right? And we can maybe even just stretch it out a bit, right? So the point here is value is down here. What I would prefer to do, which makes sense, is just simply do the study from whatever your swing low is to whatever your swing high is. And I suppose in this case it would be up there. I suppose what we could do is move the value low on the screen, and now that's your profile. The swing low. I'm not gonna fault you, whoever asks a question, if you're kind of like, yeah, Brian, I would prefer that I just use the actual swing low, swing high volumes and study your profile there. I really don't have a problem with that. And if you're kind of critical of me using the variable one that shifts around, maybe it gives conflicting messages based on, well, do I have the screen here, or do I have the screen here, or do I have the screen over here kind of idea, I wouldn't have a problem with that criticism. What I would just simply say is, for the purposes of this conversation, you notice when I did that first volume profile over here and we had some data from here, the profile's value was down here, and up here it wasn't really that heavy. And now you notice that when I have, including days going all the way back here, but you notice that value now has shifted up. And that was really the only message that I wanted to get out about the profile. I wasn't being overly specific about where the POC was, where value high, where value low is. And really, this is just a general message. I don't think I even really want to consider trade location and hunting setups based on that. It was just simply a commentary that a week or two ago when I did a public video, I had made comment that value was still down here, the bright yellow. And when we were up here, exploring up here, there just wasn't a lot of volume. And so as a result, it was outside of value. And the message, and I think this is very important, is if you are in a bull market and you see value shift up, like I said, if we go back and look at the way that I had the screen before, that I guess just to really simplify something like that, you can see that value is down here. And up here, there is no yellow. If you see that value actually shifts up, that's actually very bullish. What that means is that the market is doing so much business up here, the market itself is accepting higher price as the norm. The market is accepting this. That's another reason why it sort of helped me justify that I think these bullish bot targets and the weekly price objectives and stuff are still valid. If I'm actually going to use volume profile to trade, and I would personally prefer to use session profiles. And specifically, when I used to prop trade, I used to live by this. I kind of moved away from it when I got into all this crazy website and stuff that I've been doing with you guys and teaching and stuff. But it was really cool. Back the end of last year, the beginning of this year, Chris and I actually got back into day trading futures contracts in more seriousness. And he reminded me the value of measuring session profiles. And so something like this right here, this is what's called a naked POC way up top there. That actually becomes an incredibly valuable trade location. But notice that this is just this session, and these numbers never move. They never change. They are frozen in time. Right? I might even say that this is a naked POC down here. Now, I know Chris is looking at this going, yeah, but I only use the New York PIS session, which is correct. If I was doing this in more seriousness, I would measure out just the actual retail session and not include the 24-hour session. But the point just simply being that if I'm going to trade profile and use value high and value low and POCs for a trade location, notice is a 30-minute futures chart. Well, this to me is the way that I would use it, and these numbers never change. You notice that they're frozen in time. So to answer your question specifically, I wouldn't have a problem if you are a volume profile Nazi and are like, Brad, you must have exactly the pivot high and pivot low, and everything outside of that is kind of irrelevant for measuring the distribution of volume given a range and value high and value low and POC and what is the outside value and what's inside value and notches and muocs and stuff. Fine by me. All right? Get your whip out, 1,000 lashes. Brad, you're in the penalty box. I don't really mind. In fact, if anything, I prefer you to be a concept Nazi and just give the old man a little bit of leeway. Having said that, just understand that when I used it in context with that tweet today, it was more just a comment about, well, I'm just seeing a lot of volume coming in up top here, which means to me that the market is trying to accept that price is a bit higher here, and I just used it very flippantly. So I hope that answers your question. It's a very good question, and I don't have a problem if you want to be a volume profile Nazi. It's fine by me. All right, number 2, and then of course, as I said, if I'm actually trading futures and I'm trading using the profile, how would I use it? Like I showed you off that 30-minute chart. What I'm really looking for is the individual sessions profiles and where did price accept and reject over time. Okay, question number 2, and then I think we're probably going to wrap this up because I do have to hit the road. You all know that I've got an afternoon with the boy. If you want to wish me good luck ahead of time with him, I'd appreciate it. Your best wishes are always greatly appreciated, and I love reading back the best wishes. It fills me with a lot of enthusiasm and PMA to get ready to service Liam. And let's all have a special wish that there is no poo parties today. Please. And you can't fault him, right? I mean, if there are poo parties, Lily, then that's fine. There will be poo parties. It's just the way that it goes, right? So anyway. Okay, question number 2, Brian. Seen quite a few news articles this past week make reference to the BRICS nations moving towards de-dollarization. France. Remember, France still thinks that the United States of America stole all their gold, right? So I hope you understand. France and the United States have an awkward relationship. Kenya! Ooh, there's a powerhouse. Got to worry about the Kenyanese, I guess. India, remember, was always a Soviet satellite, so India's never really been that friendly with the United States. Remember that. And potentially others are moving towards selling energy trade in yuan or, quote, new currency to, quote, end reliance on the dollar. Does the continued narrative of nations ending their reliance on the dollar affect your 15-year dollar bull thesis? Chris B. Say, that was you, eh?
Yes.
All right. First off, remember, it's 17 and a half years. The interesting thing about these bull and bear cycles is that actually the US dollar bull cycle started literally as soon as they started the quantitative easing. Then we also have to keep in mind the relative size of the markets. There was actually I don't know whether, did you take a screenshot of that video that I did the other day with that gentleman who did the breakdown of who uses what currencies in the world? Do you remember I did that?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. So if you could grab that to save time, but I'll just show you, how do we do this? Size of countries, economy, something like that. I can't spell, you know me, terrible speller.
You're in Zoom. I think that's the picture you were going for.
Zoom. Yeah. I think this gentleman had this pretty well articulated. We'll come back to that in a moment. So I don't know whether this has a breakdown or not. So size of world economies, U.S. still the biggest world economy. I still think to a certain degree it's the world's economic engine. They are trying to get the Chinese economy up to the size, and the issue here is China's still an export economy. And, actually it's very difficult to sell into the Chinese market. They put up a ton of barriers. And the irony of it all is when I was a broker, and from what I understand, it's exactly the same thing now. Whenever I hear people talk about buying Chinese shit, it's always half of it's garbage. So just try and remember that. Half of the stuff that you buy from China is just crap. I remember a guy who was in the vending business. He used to buy, because he could get it manufactured really cheaply. In China, he used to buy like his plastic forks and knives. And even the fucking plastic forks and knives and spoons and stuff, he told me he'd still have to throw out like half of it. It's just garbage. I mean, how do you fuck up making a plastic knife? But they still seem to figure out how to do it. I don't know why. I don't know how. So, there is a big thing right now. They're trying really desperately inside China itself to invigorate the domestic economy. The consumer-based economy is not going very well. We all know what the Chinese real estate disaster is. And then, of course, it's a totalitarian dictatorship. And this is the one thing that I find quite amusing about all of this. If you actually lived in China and you had the choice, I'm going to keep my money and give it to Winnie the Pooh. Thank you. That's got to be cool. I knew it was cool. uh, if you had the choice of keeping your money in China and giving it to Winnie the Pooh, and he's going to do whatever the fuck he wants with it, and if you say boo, he could literally hold a gun to your head and murder you. No one's going to say boo. In fact, what he will do is he will send you to a re-education camp, use you as slave labor, and if you just so happen to die under those conditions, shit happens. So, do you really want to live in that kind of environment? If you had $1 million, let's say you worked your fucking ass off, and you finally got a company up to the point where, hey, somebody's like, you know what, I'm going to buy your company, here's $1 million. Are you really going to keep your money in China? If you had the choice. And this is where all of this comes down to. And in this debate, everybody forgets this simple fact. The only reason why the United States is the world's reserve currency is because we have a society that's based on rule of law. Now, I'm not going to say it's the best and it's awesome and everybody gets treated fairly, but as Winston Churchill once said, it's the best thing we got. It sucks and it's brutal and it's corrupt, but it's the best thing that we've got. And thank God Winston Churchill said that, because anytime anybody has this debate, it always comes back to that famous quote. Do you want to keep your money in communist China? Do you want to give your money to Vladdy? I mean, come on. I mean, considering all the rants I go on about Winnie and Vladdy, I'm surprised they haven't actually sent somebody. I wouldn't be surprised if they have tried to hack into my accounts and try to defame me as much as possible. Like half of the bots that you see go after me on Twitter and the YouTube bots and stuff like that, I bet they're Chinese. I bet you they're North Korean. I bet you they're Russian. So at the end of the day, really what this is a question of is, who would you trust more to actually give you your money back, i.e., I'm going to deposit my money into your country's treasury bills because, frankly speaking, I don't have a business venture and I want to put my money somewhere safe, put it into a bank, whatever. And I want to be able to get it back in 3 months, 6 months, 8 months. Now, I know a lot of you are going to be like, well, look how that's gotten you at Silicon Valley Bank. Remember, Silicon Valley Bank, they did some absolutely horrific risk management strategies. So as banks go, they kind of fucked up big time. So I don't think you can make an excuse that Silicon Valley Bank, SVB, is a proxy on good banking. I think it was actually bad banking. And ironically enough, it's the same attitude that all you crypto people have. It's identical. For some stupid reason, you guys keep all your money in that Luna because, hey, if it makes a new high, you got to buy more. Like, what? What kind of risk management is that? That's just idiotic. And yet, that's the way all crypto kids seem to act. So, I would make the argument SVB or SBV, whatever the hell the damn name is, this basically did the same mistake that a lot of crypto kids did. Why do people keep their money in Bitcoin at 50, 60 G's when they know what the cost of production is? And that's just dumb. So I think the bottom line here is the reason why the United States, dollar system is the way that it is because we live in a free and democratic society. Companies, which really are more powerful than individuals, they vote with their pocketbooks, and they've clearly voted that they trust U.S. treasuries more than they would ever trust Kenyanese, whatever the fuck those are. India is an interesting conundrum. If anything, if you want to really learn about India, I would suggest you watch, I think his name's Peter Zahn. I don't know whether I got that name correctly. He's an interesting character. But he just doesn't think that India is ready for the world stage yet. So I don't know whether we can really even include something like India in this kind of conversation. The French, they would prefer we use their currency. And if you had asked 100 years ago whether the French and Germans would be allies and would have the same currency, they would have told you you're crazy. You might have literally gotten into a fist fight had you said that 100 years ago about France and Germany. So I don't know whether you can really. Does it even make a difference what the hell the French think? I would say that China could potentially, and really what I would say is a block of, say, China, Japan, Australia, Vietnam, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Philippines. If they had worked together, I think that they could make a realistic they could make a realistic case for a sort of local hegemony currency in Asia. That would make a lot of sense. But you tell me, how are the Koreans doing these days? Is it all hugs and kisses on the Korean peninsula? How about the Japanese and the Chinese? Are they hugs and kisses? Remember, Japan, technically, for most of my adult life, Japan was actually this world's second largest economy. Japan is a free and democratic society. These guys are not. And again, if you actually go listen to Peter Zahn, he actually says China is an absolute train wreck. China is a disaster country. And now they've got a totalitarian dictator at the helm who doesn't even listen to any criticism. There's no such thing as back and forth. And there, for fuck's sakes, there's no such thing as, I don't know whether I have a lot of confidence in you and Winnie, so I think I'm going to take my money and I'm going to give it to the Swiss central bankers, and I'm going to buy Swiss T-bills. Or you know what? I'm going to go and buy the German T-bills because I like the way that they're operating these days. What do you think Winnie's going to say if you're like, I'm going to take my $1 billion or whatever's, and I'm going to take my money out of China and I'm going to go put it into German T-bills? How do you think that conversation's going to go over? So try and understand that, China's a funny creature. Yeah, it's got a very big economy now. I might argue that a lot of it's bullshit. If you actually go look at these, there's whole cities there, half-built buildings. Nobody lives in any of them. The debt situation in China is worse than it is in the States now. So this is sort of, like I had mentioned, ask Chris, in reality, if you're going to actually do business in this world, where does the Russians, the Kenyanese, the Chinese, where do they actually fall in this, we're actually doing business? Take out your pocketbook, let's do business, and what kind of currency do you actually have in your wallet? Where the hell's China? China's down here, but this is interesting. I don't know whether you're aware. The Chinese currency is actually pegged to the US dollar. Now, what happens if that peg is lost? I can tell you right now, there just won't be any US dollars flowing into China. That's how the peg works. I can exchange Chinese renminbi and US dollars at any given point in time, and Hong Kong dollars. But if that peg is lost, then that means that, hey, you're on your own. The whole fucking Chinese fugazi just instantly evaporates. The only way they're staying alive is through this outlet of getting US dollars through the peg and through the Hong Kong market. Why do you think fucking Winnie the Pooh hasn't gone and just shut fucking Hong Kong down? because he desperately needs those US dollars. And if we actually look at what's the world's commerce, it's still like 40, almost half of the world's commerce is still basically in US dollars. And if you're not going to deal in dollars, well, then you're probably going to be dealing in euros or yen. That's another quarter. So between these two, this is like this is like almost 70, 75% of the world's business is done between these three countries. Okay, fine, Russia, but who gives a fuck about Russia? I mean, Russia is such a yesterday country. Where is Russia? I don't even see Russia on this. Where is Russia as a world? I don't even know how to do this. Russia's, well, maybe down in here somewhere. This is top 10. I mean, does Russia even come in the top 50? So, I mean, who gives a fuck about Russia? Russia is such a yesterday country. I mean, why do you think they're doing so badly in this war? I mean, if they were a super... Do you see how quickly the United States went into Iraq? I mean, they took over the country in like less than 3 or 4 days. Done. Why? Because their military is fucking second to none. Russia's military is a joke. You know, they're pulling tanks that were used in the 1950s to fight in this war in Ukraine. That's how bad the situation is there. I mean, it's just pathetic. So, I mean, right now, I suppose, and this is at the absolute top, right? They were about 5% of the world's GDP. I would make the argument that probably that's been, probably knocked in half now. And, it's, of course, this is predicated purely on them selling goods and services into the commodities market. So I guess they reckon them number 11 as of 2021. But Canada is bigger than Russia as economy. So technically, if Canada and Russia went toe to toe, Canada is a more powerful economic powerhouse than Russia. So, I mean, if Canada decided that it wanted to go create its own hegemony currency, how would that go? I don't think very well. So, can you believe that China can survive depegging from the US dollar? I absolutely say without a shadow of a doubt, no. Can any of these other countries, do they make any bit different? What's fascinating is France is up to its tits in the euro. So I'm not quite sure how France can even be part of this conversation. Are they going to leave the euro? Yeah, right. I don't see that happening anytime soon. And if it does, then that means Europe just spirals into absolute disaster, and we got bigger problems on our hands. So I don't see it. It doesn't make any economic sense. It makes great clickbait. And of course, the Russians, they constantly, I don't know whether you've dealt with Russians. I used to have a client of mine who is a Norwegian, and he used to always say, never trust a Russian. Just simple as that. Anytime we ever started, never trust a Russian. But of course, he is from Norway. So you know how badly they get treated by the Russians over the years. So, put it all together. I think the Russians are incredibly egotistical, but they're writing checks that their pocketbook can't cash. If anything, they're probably over the weekend now, with all this news out of the OPEC people, they're probably like, oh, phew, this might actually be a little bit of a relief. Who knows with that? I mean, that's a whole other conversation. But with regard to actually creating a currency that's actually a viable alternative to the way the Rothschilds have set up the world financial system right now, because keep in mind, Rothschilds own these guys. I don't know whether you're aware, but, as early as 1910, 25% of JP Morgan was owned by the Rothschilds. Of course, over the years, they have comfortably taken over the U.S. government. I mean, just look at whoever's in charge of the U.S. Treasury Department. It's almost laughable. They come from one firm and only one firm. So clearly you know who's controlling the U.S. government. I think the Rothschilds are very much in control of the Eurozone. And when I say Rothschilds, I'm talking about this international banking cartel. The Japanese lost the Second World War, and if you do any history, the Princes of Japan, I think that's the name of the book. I think it was called The Princes. I think it was The Princes of Japan. Anyway,
Princes of the Yen.
Princes of the Yen. Beg your pardon. Thank you, Chris. That's basically the Rothschilds. They went in and took over Japan after the Second World War. The British pound. Rothschilds took over the British pound when Napoleon was defeated at Waterloo, I think it was. And the Rothschilds pulled a fast one on the British government and basically took over the gilt market. And their only stipulation they gave, basically they said they didn't want to bankrupt the government. What they wanted was to take over the central bank, and they did. Australians, bitches of Great Britain, so they're owned by the Rothschilds. Canada, bitches of Great Britain, so they're owned by the Rothschilds. So Rothschilds, 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 Rothschilds. Now you tell me, the Rothschilds in any worry whatsoever? And the sad part about it is this guy's all rah rah USA. He was in the U.S. military. He's like, spend more money on Ukraine. It's imperative that we stop Russia. And he doesn't even understand he is a tool of the Rothschilds. And he doesn't even understand it. He is clueless to that fact. So that's my response to, is it even realistic for this kind of idea to take hold? And then circle all around. Remember Shane's famous quote, this cycle is all about a consolidation of power. And frankly speaking, I don't think there's anybody in the world that could topple the Rothschilds and the banking cartel now. They own us all. We are all their bitches, lock, stock, and barrel. And really, probably the only thing left for them to destroy here is they have to somehow figure out how to take over crypto and how to take over Bitcoin if they haven't already. That's another conversation for another day. You might even argue that Bush Sr. and all of those people are sort of the last vestiges of holdouts, because Bush called all of this, sort of deficit spending world that the banksters demanded that all of these politicians fall into, because that's how they take control of us. Bush called it famously voodoo economics. So he knew full well that this was bullshit. And as I said, I do believe that in a weird sort of way, CIA is actually kind of our friends here. Are you part of the Rothschilds banking cartel, or are you part of the Bush's Carlyle Group, CIA, Dick Cheney, Condoleezza Rice, Rumsfeld? What the hell is that guy's name? Rumsfeld? Colin Powell's. There's no. Iraq is littered with weapons of mass destruction. We have to go in. Well, where are the men? I don't know. We couldn't find them. Which camp are you in? It's sort of like jump out of the frying pan and right into the fire. Take your choice. Anyway, so having said that, I don't think it's in either of those camps' interests to let something like this happen. And you might even argue that if it actually does start to gain traction, you're going to mysteriously find reasons why the Americans and the Chinese are all of a sudden going to have a big shoot 'em up. And you're probably going to have American tanks in Beijing. Just defending their freedom, right? They're defending democracy. That's why we're doing all this. Wow, totally straight face of Chris. Didn't even get a smile out of him on that one. Anyway, it was meant as a joke. Let's all call a spade a spade. Number one, you see, there's not a hell of a lot of viewers of my channel. So it's not really like anything that I say is going to make any difference in this world. These are Brian's opinions. I certainly don't advocate for, insurgency or anything like that. There's not really much we can do about the Rothschilds and the 1% and the banking cartels, or even for that matter, the Carlyle groups and the CIA and all that. What I would just simply say is, I suppose just like any kind of mafioso world, there's always going to be a Vic. right? Always. There's just always going to be. If you lived in medieval Europe, I mean, fuck, the king had the right to come and fuck your wife on your wedding night. And you had to raise his kid if he happened to knock her up. So, ironically enough, in a weird sort of world, having the banksters control the money supply and control the costs of our living is a somewhat acceptable pill to swallow versus Vladdy or Winnie having the right to come in and fuck your wife on your wedding night. It's up to you. And you have the choice. I'll take the banksters' crookery and the politicians' just stupidity over totalitarian dictatorships any day of the week. Any day of the week. The good part about it is, hopefully, if you just hang around with me a little while, I mean, take the education programs. I think they're relatively good price. I'm not trying to bilk you. There's no shill. I'm not going to try and get you to come in and invest in some idea, and then you just find out it's all just some big shill to buy Lambos. I tell you that I drive a Toyota Corolla, but hey, I don't know. That didn't go over very well for some dickhead who it turns out it was a shill and he was an outright crook. So I'm not going to tell you that I drive a Toyota Corolla, but I do. If you allow me the opportunity to help you see reality, I mean, all I want you to do is just see the playing field for what it is, what is real. Then we can build a plan around how to manage your behavior, how to manage your emotions, how to manage risk. I mean, fuck, maybe we should be teaching these to these stupid bankers. And there's so many people in crypto that really could use my help. And the worst part about it is I even have people who came and theoretically learned from me, and yet still they broke the rules. Drives you crazy. Anyway, I'm here to try and help. I'm here to try and make that positive difference in this world. Let's acknowledge what is real. There's not much we can do about it. Real is real. But at the same time, too, you know, the banksters love this. The banksters are making money off of cum shots right, left, and center. I mean, that might be a different cum shot for some people, but that's a cum shot in a banker's eyes if I've ever seen one. I can tell you there'll be plenty of banksters that make lots of money off of this. So just let me help you learn how to play this game. Then you can go and make all the money you want. And then you could, if you want to, you could just kiss the world goodbye, hop on your sailboat, head off onto the ocean and, you know, live through a ledger. And go to places that accept Bitcoin like Costa Rica and live very comfortably. In fact, I got a really cool tweet message DM the other day from a guy who did that. Taught him how to trade. He was living a really shitty working life here in Canada 10 years ago. Taught him how to trade. Of course, he was a Bitcoin fan, so he was loading up on the corn, making lots of money. And he just sent me pictures from Costa Rica and signs Bitcoin is accepted here as legal tender, and pictures of him on the beach with a little hottie on his arm, living the good life. So, will you let me help you? I can't answer that question, but I sure would love to be able to try. Next, in fact, actually, probably the best thing, I got to get out of here. I'm already late. Do we have the link to the sign up for the spring school term handy here, Chris?
We do. Maybe scroll up on your chat in Zoom.
Yeah, I'm looking for it, but I don't see it. Oh, there it is. It's not a link. It's just the address.
Oh, it didn't come in as the link. That is unfortunate.
That's okay. No biggie. I think I can do this. Let's see. Copy. So, and let's give a big round of applause to Chris. I couldn't do this without him, so I really appreciate it, Chris.
Oh, thank you.
How can I help you? Oops. Well, there we go. Next school term starts in about a month. I mean, it's ridiculously cheap. I think they charge you like $1,000, $1,500 or something. Somebody put a value on this at $12,000. I'm okay. I would say at $1,000, $1,500, this is a steal anyway. Maybe come in, just throw your name in here. You might just win our raffle seat. We give a seat away every single term. So consider joining. Hit the like button on the video. That helps us with the Google algorithm. Maybe suggest us to a friend. Either way, PMA for the win. I've enjoyed my rants with you guys here today. I sure hope you've enjoyed it back. Wish me luck with Liam. Thank you very much, Chris. You are awesome. PMA for the win. I think the only thing left for me to say, I think at this point, is a big hearty bye for now.